4 straight wins. Huge win yesterday over the Indianapolis Colts.
As Vandermeer said, knocking off the hose shoes.
Yeah. He didn't call them. I know it's in vogue to call.
We knocked off the hose shoes.
He didn't call the Colts a bunch of hoes. He was thinking it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
that was and it was fun. It was so much fun to watch the clock tick down to 0, knowing that it was reminding all of the Colts fans about the play where the Texans got a playoff after the clock had ticked down to 0.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that the clock. Well, it's true, though. At the end, Vandy was doing the same thing we were all doing, I think, on that last play where they run Woody Marks up the middle, and you're watching going, hey, Woody, don't go down right away. Try to stay up for a little bit because the clock, it was very close there. It was going to be very close on 4th down as to whether or not the Texans would have to run another play.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the game clock and the play clock, and I'm like, which one is it? Which is they were like a tenth of a second apart, and it was the good one that was ahead. It was a poorly officiated game.
Colts fans have noticed that. It seems.
You think?
So the thing about that game yesterday was CJ, as he himself would say, was pretty rusty at the beginning, and it was still the first half. He was doing some good things. And it was hard to really, for me, I had to consciously try to separate, all right, what can I separate from all of these stupid week 1 style penalties that the Texans are making, lining up in illegal formations. Twice, yeah. Both covered and uncovering the tight end.
Yeah.
And then, but then CJ himself throwing a ball, I would say, a good 2.2 yards past the line of scrimmage. There was just a lot of disjointedness in the first half that marred, I think, what was otherwise there were some really nice plays. That first touchdown drive, there were 3 big plays on that drive, and then they actually managed to punch it in. That's something that had eluded them earlier in the season. By and large, I think you gave CJ a B on the day, right?
Yeah,
is that your grade?
Yeah, yep.
I'm comfortable with that.
I thought it was about a B. I thought he made some nice throws. The thing I like most about CJ. And, boy, there's a lot to dig into with this game. If you're just getting up with us, that's a big day for the Texans yesterday. D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud are now 3-0 at Lucas Oil Stadium. For a franchise that couldn't win in Indy for years and years and years, now it's the house that Nico Collins built. Nico had another great game yesterday. But, yeah, I thought the thing I liked best about C.J. was the resiliency within the game. They responded. The Texans' 2 touchdown drives in that game came after the Texans had allowed a touchdown. And in particular, the first one, the Texans get the ball back on that 4th down stop where they tried the Tyler Warren tush push and the ball squirted out of there. And so the Colts turned the ball over on downs. So you have some early momentum in that game. You're up 3-0. You just stop them on a 4th down play. You're playing well defensively, and then CJ throws an interception the very next play, a horrible interception.
A really ugly interception.
Horrible interception. The Colts take that down and respond with 6 points of their own, and then what did the Texans do? They put a nice drive together, and Nick Chubb goes and scores a touchdown. In the second half of that game, the Colts get their touchdown drive to tie it at 13, and the Texans immediately respond with a touchdown drive. That's the part I was most encouraged about on the road, was the resiliency of the Texans offensively in that they weren't great off. They were pretty good offensively for the day. I know they only put up 20 points, but that's because they had their issues again, turning the ball over on downs or falling in love with the Cade Stover tush push, or in the first half getting 3 instead of 7. They largely moved the ball. They had almost 400 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
They had over 100 yards rushing. It's not a great rushing attack, but it was one that when you needed it, particularly Woody Marks at the very end, had a huge first down to essentially end the game. Got stopped short of the sticks, but then, like he's been doing, broke a couple tackles to get ahead of the sticks. That Woody Marks run to get a first down in the last 2 minutes of the game was one of the 3 or 4 most important plays in the game. It prevented the Colts from getting the ball back at the end of the game. So, yeah, I thought CJ was a solid B for me yesterday. Yeah. Definitely he said it after the game. There's some throws he'd like to have back. In fact, let's get CJ. This was CJ's self-assessment. We'll get your thoughts on it here, Seth, after. This was CJ's self-assessment of his game yesterday.
I would say, early on I was a little rusty. I thought, they really didn't give me like big plays. Like they were taking a lot of that stuff away. So I thought I was very disciplined. Check downs and getting the ball to where it had to go. And then of course the interception sucked. I got to just take care of the ball and put Hutch in a better spot and just flatten him out. But other than that, I thought I played really good. I thought every opportunity I had, with the ball, I thought I made the right decision. A couple plays I went back. But I thought, I did a really good job of, taking what the defense was giving me. I think the type of team we have, I don't have to be Superman all the time. And, I got to just do my job each and every play. And I'm not going to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. And I trust myself. I know my teammates trust me. And that's all that really matters.
The thing that he mentioned in one of the other clips that kind of adds on to all of that is that I think for the first time this year, CJ spoke about the death by 1,000 cuts offense in a genuinely positive light, and it came when he was talking about, okay, punching the ball into the end zone. Because these 12 and 14 play drives, if anything, I think when he's had success early in his career with the Texans, it was with a lot of explosive plays.
Yes.
And he hasn't necessarily had to really learn how to play this style where, yeah, you control the clock, you win the time of possession, you drive down the field, and then you punch it in. They just kept failing early in the season on that. So when you have a 12 or a 14 play drive and then you actually get it in the end zone, you can really see that the proof is in the pudding there. We talk about the overall offense with only 20 points, and yes, I would love for the Texans to start routinely scoring 30 points or more. But for now, in the second half, when you think about how the Texans were unable to close out games earlier in the season, these are the drives in the second half. And there weren't that many drives, partly because the Texans just drove the ball. 14-play field goal drive, sure, you'd love to have a touchdown there, but it was 14 plays. Took up 8 minutes of clock, the first drive of the second half. In the fourth quarter, 12 plays, 65 yards. Then they turned the ball over on downs with the Cade Stover tush pushage. But it's by and large, if they had handled that differently and converted that or just kicked the field goal, that's a good game-winning drive or a drive that helps to seal the game. Yep. And then at the end of the game, they closed it out. So they had 4 drives in the second half. Not a single one of them was a 3-and-out. This is a team that majored in 3-and-outs when you needed drives earlier in the year. Yeah. And that part of it, winning the box score, where it really showed itself. And this has been 2 weeks in a row where the Colts have lost when their defense is simply on the field a lot more than the opponent's offense. So by the end of the game, the Texans had run 70 plays on offense. The Colts had only run 50. And that's like the physiology of that, whether you're passing the ball or running the ball, is that you could see it on the field. The Colts' defense was worn down, and the run game started to bite a little bit more. They were able to get these conversions when they needed to. That feels like more of a complete football team effort than hardly anything we saw early in the season.
Well, and taking advantage of your opponent, in part based on what they had to endure the previous week. You mentioned that Chiefs game. I think the Colts defense was on the field for almost 90 plays in that game. It was an overtime game.
Yeah.
So you had a team that was already kind of busted up coming into that game. And so even when you start the game, Seth, and I know, again, like to your point, we all want touchdowns, not field goals. We all want these drives to end in 7 points. But you come out and on your first drive of the game, you bang on them for 13 plays and 6 minutes of football. They realize that it's going to be a long day. It's at the very least going to be a long day in terms of how much effort we need to put in. Again, 20 points is not optimal. They're going to need to score more than 20 points in games somewhere here along the way to get some wins down the stretch and get into the playoffs. But for yesterday, it got the job done.
It was, the first half, that first drive was nice, but you only came out of it with a field goal. Until the touchdown drive in the first half, it felt bad. Because you had death by 1,000 cuts field goal, then you had a 3-and-out punt, 1 play interception that the Colts responded with a touchdown. That felt bad.
Yep.
And you have to kind of separate that from the ensuing drive where the Texans had that touchdown drive, and then still again at the end of the first half, that frustrating, muted lack of urgency. just
Yeah.
failed attempt to get into even field goal position. That was rough.
Not even failed attempt. It's almost like they didn't care.
They didn't even care. Yeah.
It's just like, if it's not a failed attempt, we're not even attempting. How can you fail an attempt if we're not attempting to get into field goal range? They burned in a half, and I don't want to get too off the weeds on the negative, because yesterday was a tremendously positive day for this team. But yeah, that was weird. They got the ball with 1:51 left in the half, and they spent over a minute moving the ball 25 yards with two timeouts. It was strange.
Yeah, and that point, and like to try to what keep the ball out of Daniel. Let's remember, this is Daniel Jones.
Right, man.
You know, oh no, it's not Pat Mahomes. It's not like, oh, we can't give the ball back to Daniel Jones with 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He'll kill us.
Yep.
He'll kill us. He will.
Nope.
No, stop it.
Yep. So I think the big storylines yesterday, we touched on CJ, his return. So again, similar to when he came back from the concussion in 2023, and he comes back and he plays well, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, good, he's fine. And I feel that way about CJ. I don't think the interception was a concussion thing. I think it was probably a little bit rusty, and the ball just ball sailed on him kind of thing.
Yeah.
So CJ, I think you mentioned the officiating. We should mention that. Colts fans are livid at the officials in this game because on the same play, it looked like the officials may have missed a delay of game.
Yeah.
And then there was a bad pass interference call. It was a bad call, I thought, on the Colts, on the Kenny Moore pass interference. The Colts failed to point out that the pass interference call on Kalen Bullock was complete BS as well earlier in the game on 3rd and 19.
It was basically a makeup call at that point, I think.
Maybe.
It was an uncatchable football.
For a football player, it was. There might have been somebody in the stands that could have caught the thing. You think the Kalen Bullock one?
Some inbred 7'9" freak out there? Probably.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of inbred people in Indiana?
Sure.
Yes, we know this.
Yep.
There was one of them in the stands, possibly, but it wasn't Alec Pierce.
So there were those 2 calls that went in favor of the Texans. The missed delay of game call. Gene Steratore thought it was a missed call. The official, the referee expert on the CBS broadcast. And then the phantom PI, and then so the Texans go on to score on that drive. They score the go-ahead touchdown. The touchdown would ultimately win the game. They go Collins end around, which was a great call, well-designed play. And then it sure did look like they missed the point after, but if it goes over the upright, inside of the outside,
it's impossible
side of
to
the
tell
upright.
exactly where it was.
We know where Colts fans stand on it.
Yeah. Letting the play clock go down to 0, which we know. I mean, it feels like it happened. Maybe they've been more stringent with the rule lately. It doesn't feel like I've been as frustrated as many times. But like if you watch football long enough, you know that they kind of. I know they kind of give the the official a little bit of leeway. That it's like, okay, I'm going to look down, confirm. Okay, yeah, that's definitely at 0, but like settle down.
Yep.
Why don't you try to stop the team that's out there on the field every
That's
now
it,
and then?
man. Stop being such babies. So the
quit your whining.
The officiating was a big topic.
I did the quick nerd break. As I was writing down, like, oh boy, these Colts fans are really upset about the phantom PI calls. Mm-hmm. I remembered that, the state of Indiana, the House of Representatives, the state House of Representatives, once voted to strike down pi, the number 3.14.
Oh, that's right.
They changed it to 3.2, which doesn't make any sense at all. They did. It was narrowly defeated in the state Senate. Narrowly. There was because a mathematics professor stepped in and tried to talk some sense to these inbred elected officials.
They tried to round up 3.14.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
it actually happened, everybody. Look it up. It's called the Pi Bill.
Then you should have had no problem with the play clock on that play.
I will not sit here and have Indianans lecture me about numbers, damn it.
Yeah, that's funny. Speaking of numbers, Texans defense. We haven't even talked about the defense yet. We talked about CJ. We talked about the refs. Talked about how big this win is. For the first time all season, the Colts held under 20 points in a football game. Here is D'Amico Ryans on the efforts of the entire defense.
Hey, look, it took everybody defensively. I mean, they have great players. You talk about Pierce making out Pierce and Downs, 2 outstanding catches there, and Jonathan Taylor, I would say, one of one of the guys I really love to watch. He's an outstanding player, outstanding back in his league. So I thought our guys did a good job up front, trying to bottle him up and stopping him as best as we could. Guys tackle well. They got a couple explosive plays on them, and that's what they've shown. They've done that. Really good players making good plays. But when it came down to it in the crunch time, third down, fourth down, that's where we were our best, and that's when we needed it, and that's what allowed us to be in the position we're in today, winning the game.
It was interesting. They were in the exact same spot, the Texans were, the defense, as they were in the last game against the Bills. The opponent was trailing by 4 because they had missed an extra point earlier in the game and needed a touchdown instead of a field goal. If you remember, that's the situation the Bills were in at the end of the game. Almost in the same spot on the field, almost in the same down and distance inside of the last 2 minutes. The Texans had to feel like this is a very familiar situation on that fourth down where they stopped them to get the ball back.
Yeah, there were, and it kind of makes you reflect back on just all these one-score games, and some of it's just random dumb luck, but some of the things that just, man, if the Bucs game, for instance, came down to that 1 4th and 10 where the Texans could have won the game right there. Yes. And that one win right this moment, man, that would make a big difference in where you are in the standings right now. But that's where some of it's dumb luck, some of it's weirdness. The Texans do have a knack for not just blocking kicks, but also just forcing bad kicks this year. I don't know if it's a general stress level of kickers knowing that this is a team that's really good at blocking kicks. That Danico Autry is out there looming with his 14 blocked kicks in his career.
Yeah.
But I'll give the Texans field goal block unit credit for that missed field goal.
There you go.
It wasn't just simple dumb luck.
There you go. Yeah. So
missed extra point.
Yep. So that factored in huge down the stretch. Now the big difference was Kalen Bullock interception against the Bills ended the game. When the Texans got the ball back yesterday, they had to go get a first down to win it. Yeah. And they did. And that was really cool to see, man. Woody Marks.
Woody Marks playing injured, too, the entire game pretty much.
We have a text here. How worried are you guys about Woody Marks' foot? I'm extremely worried
I'm worried.
Yeah. Extremely worried.
Don't worry. Joe Mixon's foot turned out fine. I remember everybody telling us that we were being drama queens about it. Yeah. Oh, you guys are he'll be fine. He never takes any reps during training camp. I can't believe you guys are actually making a big deal out of this. Go die.